to discuss about technology. As government, as you know, ensuring that we have the right policy for both now and the future is important. So we took a lot of time in reviewing the policy. We had a lot of consultation with the public, all the actors that are required. In fact, I would say the main challenge we're having is how will we get everybody to start using technology on a day-to-day basis so that it's more important. And to some degree, COVID has boosted those requirements, where now we're mostly using video conferencing for our meetings, the use of the network infrastructure. Now we can see even the operators are asking for more bandwidth. We can see the broadcasters also, a lot of usage. So in a lot of ways, we have seen that the policies we put in place are working. On the e-commerce side, we're beginning to see that the e-commerce companies that started now are actually seeing serious growth in their business. A lot of people ordering both local and international products. In a wholesale way, I think the policy is working. We want to see now adding layers of security, because as we add more and more services, then security becomes more and more important. Things like contact tracing have become very important. Again, most of that we're using technology to be able to trace where people are. Cash transfers are using technology to be able to ensure that even those people who are in marginalized areas are poor, they're not able to have the money that they need. As government, we're able to push to them. So a lot is working well, and I'm sure there'll be questions for me to give even more details. Thank you.
Definitely, and I'll be coming back to the issue of the policy, the ICT policy of 2019 shortly. But I want to move gears to Madam Mercy Wanjau of the Communications Authority. And the CS has already touched on the subject of security. And of course, with so much traction now going online and onto digital platforms, the question of vulnerability to cybersecurity attacks has, of course, gained prominence in Kenya. From the CA optic, how is this turning out?
Thank you very much for the invitation to join this conversation today. Indeed, with the entry of COVID-19, the experience of life as it was has changed in a dramatic way. When COVID-19 was declared a national pandemic, government directed that staff move and work from home. This meant that environments that were previously tailored for working on a manual basis, so to speak, eyeball to eyeball, had to migrate with people working remotely, being supervised remotely, and yet meeting the same service expectations as would have happened if they were working in the offices. This, I know, has posed a challenge for many institutions because the adoption to technology and working remotely happened very fast with very little preparation. Soon thereafter, schools were closed and children also came home and were learning from home. So that you find in the last couple of weeks, the way we live, the way we do business, the way we work is changing dramatically, and yet we have to adopt. And I believe that this adoption is actually for the long haul. We will be moving towards a new normal. But as the CS has said, that the policy that came forth in November 2019 is working well. I think it was a really game-changing policy because it looks like it looked forward, and some of the things that we had hoped for are now happening because of the push of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And as a facilitator agency and guided by that policy, this is really a time for us to also step up and partner with our stakeholders in order to ensure that they're able to carry forward with the service delivery and that we're able to back them up with the regulatory resources that we have.
Madam Wanjau, some very good introductory points there. And just to take a rider from what you've just mentioned, Peter Ndegwa of Safaricom, Madam Wanjau has mentioned the issue of this adaptation is for the new norm. But there are concerns that COVID-19 has brought to visibility the digital divide we have in terms of the haves versus the have-nots. I'm curious to know, you're one of the biggest service providers in this country by way of digital solutions. How is the landscape like, and how do you feel this can be addressed?
Thank you, Julian, and thank you, my fellow panelists. I think everyone is right that COVID-19 has changed life as we know it today. It's changing the way we socialize, the way we interact, the way we work, the way we shop, and indeed this today's conversation, all of us working from home, is indeed an example of the change that we are seeing. It's affected everyone. There's no question about that. But you're right that it's affected the underprivileged a lot more. As an industry, as a telecom industry, we are an essential service, and our main job during this period is to keep Kenyans connected. It is important that we play that primary role, which is around ensuring that our networks are strong and available. Specifically speaking about Safaricom, we have invested over the years and we have coverage, very wide coverage across the country. And I'll give you just a few statistics. So last financial year, we invested 36 billion shillings to achieve 96% population coverage of 2G and 94% population coverage of 3G, which are mainly SMS and voice communication. The second is we have achieved 77% coverage of 4G, which is very important as we go into the data era. So it's important that communication companies like ours continue to invest. Indeed, during this COVID period, we put close to 400 sites on 4G across the country, so we have not stopped. The other element that we are working on is we know that investing in network is not enough. We need to make sure that the right handsets are available to our customers, especially as we go into data. We need to enable our customers to acquire 4G-enabled devices so that they can get better user experience. The second aspect of supporting, especially the underprivileged, beyond covering the population, is to ensure as education starts to be offered online, we ensure that every single pupil or student across the country can access. So we have zero-rated, Safaricom zero-rated websites that are supporting content for free. And the second thing is we are making sure that regardless of the type of phone you have, you can be able to access that content. The third point that I'll make is we have been participating together, working with the Communication Authority in the Universal Service Fund to make sure that we can reach 203 sub-locations across this country that would otherwise not have achieved network if it wasn't for the USF. The first phase is going on, covering 78 sub-locations. At Safaricom, we are covering 50, and we've already installed, we have already made installations in 40 of them. And then the second phase will be announced soon. So we believe that we are doing everything to make sure that no one is left behind.
Appreciated for those introductory remarks. I want to move to Richard, and Peter has just spoken largely about the accessibility of the relevant infrastructure in terms of accessibility of internet, but many would be keen to know about the affordability aspect of this. Now, you're in internet service provision, and just curious to know, what's your assessment of the landscape as it is right now in terms of affordability and coping up with the surging demand that we are now experiencing?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me on board with this panel. It's great to be here, Julians. What we're seeing is a massive demand shift and a change in the demand curve. And only a few weeks ago, we were doing a 9-to-5 job in the office, and we've now gone from 9 to 5 to any time. We've gone from working in an office to working anywhere. We've gone from using company equipment and computers and laptops and that were provided to us to using any devices at any time and anywhere. What we're seeing is this demand shift going from company premises to people's homes, and we're also seeing that where people were hoarding information or storing their own information, that they're now sharing information through different collaboration tools. So we see this massive demand shift. And in terms of affordability, I think pricing has come down.